my name is Marie Slider Henriksen. I am a veteran. I got medically discharged out of the Army because my hips gave out. I've recently been diagnosed with a genetic condition called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and found out that my connective tissues are degenerating. I have a defective collagen. And so that's affected a lot of my life. When I got out of the military, I got very lost in addictions and alcoholism. And I had a lot of the suicidal ideations.
Good afternoon, everyone. We surely are glad that you're here with us on our One Moment podcast. We are in a good moment today just to have this episode. We have a wonderful guest to be with us today named Marie Henriksen, former veteran. And we have out of respect for all the veterans, we are just sincerely proud to have her here spending her 4th of July with us. It's very encouraging to work with her. My name is Trevor Zylstra. I'm a former correctional officer in the state of New Mexico and state of Colorado. And I have a vast life experience with dealing with mental health awareness, substance use and recovery, and all sorts of dimensions of issues that humanity tends to have to deal with. And unfortunately, most of us will stigmatize or systematically dismiss these topics of discussion that need to be addressed. But that's what our mission is here in the One Moment podcast with Kevin Odom from the state of North Carolina, who I am introducing to you now.
Welcome, everyone. Of course, you already know me. KO, Kevo, Kev, Kevin, doesn't matter. Go by all of them from the One Moment podcast. Now, today's going to be a very interesting recording. Got an amazing and phenomenal young lady. And she gets the P word, okay? Phenomenal. Looking forward to hearing from her. Now, everybody knows that we don't open wounds on this program that we cannot close. It's not our goal. Our goal was to bring awareness to people around the world to talk about mental health, substance use, suicide awareness, suicide prevention. It's about educating people, letting them know what's really going on, right? Bringing awareness to, breaking stigmas across the globe. So, without further ado, I'm going to let the young lady introduce herself. I don't want to tell any part of her story at this moment because she is just amazing. We were just having a chit chat right before the recording, and I'm loving it already. Absolutely, I'm loving it. And have to say thank you to our veterans. It is July the 4th, 2025. So we're going to dedicate this whole episode to the veterans. And anybody who's suffering, there is help available. Please reach out.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for having me. I am super excited to be here. So my name is Marie Slider Henriksen, and like they were saying, I am a veteran. I got medically discharged out of the Army because my hips gave out, and I've recently been diagnosed with a genetic condition called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and found out that my connective tissues are degenerating. I have a defective collagen, and so that's affected, a lot of my life. I have dealt with childhood emotional trauma and stuff because I was in foster care and adopted. And I have also dealt with rape when I was a teenager. I was deployed to Iraq. I was a medic. When I got out of the military, I got very lost in addictions and alcoholism. And I had a lot of the suicidal ideations, mostly passive suicidal ideations, kind of just like wanting to wake up and not be here anymore. And then I have been sober for the last 8 years. In my sobriety, I've dealt with a lot of mental health issues because for so many years I pushed everything down and did not face it. And so I have been in the psych unit twice. I've been on medication and off medication. I have been suicidal. I have dealt with food addiction in my sobriety. I got up to 250 pounds. And then as I started losing weight, I got stuck in a binge purge cycle of bulimia. I am currently in 10 months in remission from that. I have dealt with a lot of different life experiences and been through lots of different types of therapy. Um, Currently in my sobriety, my biggest thing that I have been doing is God gave me a voice in writing, and as I've been going through this journey of healing, I write poetry about finding healing through finding healing from trauma and addictions through hope and faith and peace. And I work as kind of like an unofficial peer support, encouraging other people in the local recovery community and the local veteran community. I've lost a lot of friends to suicide in the veteran community. And so my goal is to bring awareness of that and awareness of the help that is available out there. And I'll throw this out there, 988, best hotline there is. I have called it many times and it has saved my life. Veterans can dial 988 with option 1. Even if you're not feeling suicidal, if you're in crisis, it is an amazing tool. But yeah, I do a lot of unofficial peer support with people, kind of helping to show them the ways that I've made it through some really difficult times in my life. I just published a book. It's called More Me Than I Used to Be, A Journey of Healing. And it is my poetry alongside my own personal photography. And so
Cool.
if you are interested, you know, it's got my some of my photography and some of my poetry in there. If you are interested, I have not had the book launch yet. Please send me your email and I can add you to the book launch information. But yeah, so this is something that I am doing. I've been doing some podcasting, just kind of bringing awareness to a lot of healing, and this is my third podcast that I've been on. I've been on multiple episodes of another podcast, but this is my third individual podcast I've been on, and I just feel called to kind of share my hope and strength and my faith and my journey of how I've made it through some very hard things, and I have been able to find joy and love and God and peace. You know, in my recovery, I found God again, and God has helped me to be able to have the confidence to help other people. And most recently, I live in Utah, but I'm currently in Arizona. My father passed away on Wednesday. And so this topic is very near and dear to my heart, and being able to find the joy and the peace in feeling the emotions, because in the past I would have already gotten drunk. I would have already ran away. I would not have been able to be present. I would have been stuck in victim mentality. But in my sobriety, in doing this work, I've been able to find peace, and I've been able to be present with my family. I've been able to see what I can bring instead of what I can receive. And it's been an interesting journey, you know. But that's kind of where I'm at today. It's just trying to find that I've learned about the dialectic of the and. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of dialectic behavioral therapy. So it is there's a big part of that is learning about the and, where I can be sad and I could feel my emotions, like I'm not crying at the moment. I am emotional. I've been crying off and on for the last couple of days, but on top of the emotions and feeling sad, there is so much joy. So there are so many times that I feel like I want to start crying, and then I feel the joy because I know that my father is in a better place. And I know that I will see him again with my faith. I'm a firm believer in the resurrection, and I'm a firm believer that he is in my squad of angels now, and he's here with me, and then I'll see him again. And if you guys will humor me, I say squad of angels because that is the title of one of the poems that I have written years ago, and it kind of shares about that dialectic of feeling the emotions and being sad, but also finding that hope and that peace in the idea that they are still continuing. So, are you guys okay if I do that?
Yes, we'd love to have you
Absolutely.
do it. Thank you very much. We'd love to hear it.
Okay. So this poem is called My Squad of Angels, and I wrote it in December of 2017. I was almost a year sober, and I was really feeling sadness about some of my friends and like extended family that had passed away, and so they're not that far away. All those who passed before, they're waiting for my arrival just behind this mortal door. They're watching and guiding prayerfully in that space that's just beyond. They're in the creases of my heart, a place they're very fond. They're floating through my memories to help sort out my past. They want me to find happiness, but their flag is at half-mast. They do this to help me bear the weight of struggles along the way. They want to give their strength to me during every painful day. They wait beyond my consciousness. Their warmth they want to share. Sometimes I feel it blowing in the wind that moves my hair. I see them in a stranger's face as a flicker or a feeling. Sometimes the similarities scare me through the ceiling. I wonder if that person may be sent from one who passed, or if a chance connection is a hook my loved ones cast. They're always looking out for dangers along my way, because a path of positivity may be just a choice away. They speak to me with whispers, heard with my heart, not ears. And when I think of them with love, my grief slowly disappears. When I start to change my thoughts from missing them with sorrow into a beautiful memory, I get strength until tomorrow. And then I start to feel them stronger in the shadows that are cast. And I know that our connection is not only in the past. To me, these thoughts do comfort and fill my heart with song, for through my earthly journey they will travel right along. So yeah, I've been able to find that joy, you know.
No, and
Thank you for sharing your squad of angels with us. That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
thank you. Um, as you were reading and as you were talking, I was thinking about Viktor Frankl. He's one of my most um, favorite uh, theorists of all times, right? And he wrote about he wrote Man's Search for Meaning, uh, and he was an existentialist, right? Um, and he and part of what I take from him, and this was his biggest, I guess, the biggest part of his theory is finding meaning in our experiences, right? And when it comes to, I mean, you've been through a lot. You've gone and you're experiencing grief at this moment, right? And so we also had a lady, probably about, I don't know, Trevor, about 3, 4 weeks ago. Her name was Elisa, and she was also a trauma specialist. And she spoke about the need to find meaning in our experiences to help us heal and grow and cope, etc. Right. And so, as you were talking, like my brain went to Viktor Frankl on his work in the psychology and the philosophy field because he added so much. I mean, he brought so much knowledge to us. So, I guess my question to you is, when we think about finding meaning, what has been that? What does that look like for you?
Okay. Yeah, so that is something that I have focused on a lot recently. Last year, I did an intensive outpatient program for the PTSD and the food addiction, and we talked about that idea of trying to figure out what your purpose is and what your the what your values are, what the different goals are that you have, and what your purpose is, right? And the reason why I'm bringing that up is the meaning that I'm looking at with everything that I have been through, right? Finding the meaning in it is for me to to figure out what my purpose is, if that makes sense. So everything that I've been through for a long time, I was stuck in this victim mentality. This is happening to me. It's not fair. This is not okay. I'm going to fight it. Or I would go into trauma responses, with caretaking or codependency. I would do service work because I felt like I had to, and everyone tells me that I should do service work. And even though I would put this smile on my face and look like I was enjoying life and everything. Inside, I was so full of pain and frustration and anger. And I couldn't really find the meaning of anything because I was lost in this victim mentality. And so one of the giant parts of this healing process, right? This healing journey that I've been on is to kind of take a step back and realize that things aren't happening to me, that things are just happening. And learning about radical acceptance, right? This is not bad, this is not good. It is just what's happening. And so the meaning in it that I am learning to find is, what can I learn from it? It's not that it's this horrible, crappy thing that's happened, and I try to look at what can I learn from it. So what can I do moving forward? This bad thing happened, or this good thing happened. What can I learn from it? How can I move forward? So that's kind of what I try to focus when with the meaning is trying to say, it's not, I will never know exactly why something has happened. I will never know the full implications of what is going to happen because of something that happened, right? I'm never going to fully know what the meaning of this is, but what I can do is say, this happened. What purpose do I have? What is my purpose? How can I handle it? How can I move forward? And what can I do because of it? So my dad just died. I've been really emotional and sad about it, up and down, but I'm trying to say, well, instead of focusing on why it happened, what can I do moving forward? Well, I can find joy in knowing that he is at peace. I can stay sober through this, and I can show other people that it is possible to stay sober through a hard situation. So I'm not sure if I really focus a lot on the meaning of things, but I focus on more of, what can I do now? What can I learn from this? How can I grow? And so I guess that's kind of the meaning. The meaning is, everything is for our experience, right? So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of the thought process that goes for me.
Yeah, no, it does. No, I mean, you answered it perfectly. I think meaning can be interpreted in 100 different ways. Um, because the way I would interpret a situation, I can always ask, what can I take away from this, right? What does this mean for me? So yeah, no, thank you.
I think Marie, you brought up some really good points. and the ideation of having the ability to learn through everything that you're going through. And so, since I'm considerably older than both of you guys, I'm pretty sure I am. My vast experiences, especially through physical work, getting through that mentally, I've done some of the hardest and most disgusting and most difficult jobs that no one else wants to do in my work experience. And then I thought that was brought to a huge point getting into corrections, because that was really a brutal job, and it's just dismissed so much. Oh, you're a guard. I'm like, no, I don't work at a bank or a shopping mall. That's where guards work. I worked at a prison. I'm a correctional officer. So to get onto an elite squad there was really an accomplishment, and I had to learn a lot more involving myself with the people that I was supervising. People will stigmatically say, well, you're just a glorified babysitter. No, it's not babysitting at all. Your mental health help, your physical help. If somebody's trying to hurt themselves, you got to stop them from doing that and teach them, hey, you're in this position. You have to face these consequences of what you've done, and you can still do your time, but you can do it in a positive way, so that if you do have the ability to get out of this position that you're in, that you can be a productive member of regular society again. So what you said, Marie, was just the ideation of learning more and more and more and more. And I get that, because I've got my own things that I'm having to learn more and more about right now. And so the encouragement through like having a squad of angels around you, that's pretty kick ass. And I just hope that's not over the edge of PG-13 rating, but I think the word AWS is not too bad, so I think I'm doing all right. I'm adapting and I'm overcoming, and the elite mentality that I still have embedded in my brain from back in '91, um, when my senior drill instructor told me the one thing that stuck with me, that's kept me and given me my source of strength, is that I was told that I would never be anything but a quitter, and since then I haven't quit anything except things that were hurting me. So that's good. That's how I learned. I like the ideation that you talked about of sharing your experience, strength, and hope with others to help them learn more. And as long as our minds are open to discussing these problematic things that happen to all of us, the better we all can learn. So having you as our guest on our podcast today is really a privilege for us, so we can learn more about trying to help our veterans, which is extremely important to me, um, as well as you. I'm just encouraged by that. So we're glad you're here with us, and what you've been sharing with us is just a tremendous amount of learning experience that I like, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a couple things that popped into my head that I want to touch on, that you were just talking about, and like one of them, I'm talking about, being able to find purpose, or like what you said, find meaning, or how can I move forward through heavy things that are happening to me. And I actually have a friend who is in jail right now, and he's been struggling with sobriety, and he has found his sobriety, but his PTSD brought him to a really dark place, and he ended up in jail. And instead of being lost in the why is this happening to me? This is a horrible thing. He has been able to process through and say, okay, well, I am safer in here than I was out there. What can I learn? How can I grow? How can I find peace? How can I find God? And it's been so super wonderful to see his mentality, because, there's a lot of people that say, well, if this happens, I can't find peace. If this happens, I'll drink. If this happens, and I even had the mentality, even a year ago, like, oh, if my dad dies, like this was a thought that went through my mind, right? It was the if then statement. If my dad dies, I'm gonna be, so super pissed, and I'm gonna break things, and I'm gonna throw things, or maybe I'll just start drinking, and I was like in that mindset. And today I'm like, no, I'm at peace. This is one of the hardest things that I've had to deal with in my life. I was definitely always a daddy's girl. Like there was a time that I had to step away from the family for a little bit so I could get my own mentality right. But I've always been kind of a daddy's girl, and my dad was a veteran, and he's the only one in my family, that was military as well. So I felt like super connected with him, and I really thought that this was going to be something that would drive me out. And I'm at this point now with the work that I've done. It's like, hey, this is one of the hardest things that I've been through, and I'm able to find peace. And so watching my friend, in jail, which is something that I couldn't imagine because I've never been in jail before, but watching him make it through this really hard thing and finding peace is so beautiful. I've had conversations with other people that say, oh, if I was homeless, I would just drink, or if this happened, I would just drink, or I couldn't be happy. And it's amazing because I've met a homeless guy in recovery who comes to meetings every day, who does service work, who sponsors people, but he lives in his car. And at one point he was living in on the street, but he still shows up for the next person to say, hey, I can find peace in the darkest moments. So can you. And then I've also seen people who are like really well off that have a ton of money, and they are miserable. They are miserable. And so it doesn't matter what the outside circumstances is, healing is an inside job, you know so anyways, I just like that you touched base on, in jail. That is where you can have the most mental health help ever, because now you're in a safe place, and you have that opportunity to, the outside world is out of the way, and now you can just focus on recovery and focus on your relationship with your higher power, and you can find that peace. And then you guards are able to be there to support and to protect. Yeah, there's crappy people everywhere. There's assholes everywhere, and you've got some guards that are assholes. But I know from ones that I've seen and ones that I've met, they're there to try to help. And so, I think it's beautiful that you touched on that. And then the other thought process that went through my mind is, I can't remember exactly the full process that I was thinking about, but it's the idea of healing. And something you said triggered me into how we heal. And I was just going to say, like, one of the things that I super encourage people is to write, okay, or to find their own creative means to be able to find peace. Like for me, it's been journaling and writing everything down so I can see it in my own words, because I sometimes don't give a shit what you have to say, but I do give a shit what I have to say. And so sometimes I will go through my journal and be like, I don't remember me going through this. I don't remember me saying this. I don't remember me feeling this, but it's in my words, so it must be true. So I can trust myself. And so in my hardest days, I look back and find the hope in my words, and it helps me process through. So I was just thinking about that idea of, you were talking about how we can help veterans or how we can help other people. And one of the things I would say is encourage creativity. Encourage creativity, either writing or, I do my photography, and that's something that really helped me along the way. I know other people that do like computer stuff, like they'll build software. Anyways, there's so many different ways of creativity, but that's such a healing thing. There is ASAP, Armed Services Art Project. There is a nonprofit called the Armed Services Art Project, ASAP, and the Wounded Warrior Project partners with them. And they will actually, if you're a veteran, you can contact Wounded Warrior Project or the ASAP, and they can get you signed up, where they will send you art projects and creative things for you to do. Like they sent me send me some woodworking stuff and some other stuff that you can build. You can make wallets and all sorts of stuff, but they send you actually creative projects for you to do to help you process through your PTSD. And it's just beautiful. And I love it.
Does anyone else have that one tool that makes building a website a breeze? In an era driven by digital change, WebHash is the indispensable tool that holds the key to effortless website creation. Create websites that endure, defy censorship, and bypass any single point of failure. As cutting-edge technology redefines reality, seize the power to build beyond limits. Join the Web3 revolution now and forge paths others can only dream of. Visit our site today and build your legacy. Building my own space on the web was always a grind until I hit up WebHash. Their no-code builder is my ace. It's swift and solid. It's like rocking a digital fortress that's immune to the typical shutdowns. Level up your web presence without stress. Ready to stake your claim in the digital realm? Dive into WebHash today, connect your Web3 wallet, and get started. They have multiple subscription plans, from a free version to a lifetime subscription. Check them out today at webhash.com. Most importantly, they sponsor the One Moment podcast, helping to raise awareness to critical topics in the healthcare field. Our official website was built using the WebHash platform. Throughout the projects that the One Moment movement built on WebHash, they stood behind and supported it all the way. Sign up and start building your website today. Don't forget to visit onemoment.chain.box and subscribe to our social media channels.
That's an amazing concept. Because I always, myself, when I was going through some certain things, I've always, and I'm an 80s teenager, so I'm kind of strong in the rock and roll and the metal group. And when I was going through difficult times in my life, I'd always go into my music. And it was extremely much so different than what is so popular. And so I secluded myself in that particular genre and kept going deeper and deeper into the black area to where I developed a light in the sense of the darkness, which a very good friend of mine, and I've known him since he was 15, and he's been doing tattoos now for 35 years, 38 years, somewhere around there. And his name is Evil Dave. But he uses the dark art as a place to get rid of the negativity and bring in positivity. So you see all these crazy looking things that are art. So I get the idea of that. That's really a good thing. I've never personally developed it because I'm like not that advanced in as far as my artistry things go. But I always had a desire to maybe learn it. And since I'm able to learn all the time, it's pretty cool. I like the idea of using an artistic ability to get rid of possible PTSD that anyone might be going through. That's a really encouraging thing to hear. The journaling part, I'm not so great on that either because I have this personal idea that, well, hey, if you write it down, it's going to be brought up to be used against you sometimes. So I'm like defensive with that. So I don't necessarily do much journaling. I just have a different journal that I read, that's my spiritual aspect of it. And that's the only source of real strength that I get. And that's a constant thing. It just doesn't mesh with what the world teaches. So you have to read it and learn it on your own. Study to show yourself an improved workman, and that's the heaviest work there is. So yeah, I like the ideas that you're telling us about, Marie, and thank you for that. Have you got anything that you're thinking about, Kevin? Anything you could ask her any questions about?
Well, I have a really quick comment that I wanted to make.
Sure,
You
sure.
said you said you had that mindset that, whatever I write down can be used against me. Okay.
Yeah,
So the way that I have gotten to this point, right,
or
is like
gotten
I don't
past it,
care.
right?
Yeah,
Okay.
like it's like I personally like just don't care anymore. It's like what you think is none of my damn business. That's what was one of the best things that anybody ever said, right? What you think of me is none of my own damn business. If you want to try to hurt me, okay, whatever. That's on you. That says more about you than me. Okay? And that's kind of the mindset that I've gotten is like I what you do can only affect me if I allow it to. Right. And if somebody wants
Okay.
to use my words against me and other people want to like join on that bus, then cool. I don't need you in my life. You don't need to be a
Right.
part of my life. If you are wanting to try to hurt me, you don't need to be a part of my life. And so for me, it's even if somebody does want to use my words against me, then okay, that's on you. I've got nothing to be ashamed about. So that's just my own little mindset. But I get what you're saying, you know. But there's also an idea that what some people do is they will write and they'll burn what they write. And it's
Right.
a cathartic thing.
Yeah.
So
I've
they'll
heard of
write,
that.
they'll read it to somebody, you know, or they won't, then they'll just like read it out loud. I encourage reading it to somebody before you burn it. But
Okay.
they'll write it, they'll read it to somebody, and then they'll just burn it. And so then it's not written down. So if that's something that you are worried about, it's okay. I'm not at the point where I care anymore. But if you are, that is totally okay. Just write it down and burn it, but at least it is a form of getting it out type thing. And then I was just going to say, like, there was a veteran that I knew last year. I met him at the VA just randomly, and oh, do I have, I no, my keys are outside. But anyways, his way of dealing with his PTSD, he doesn't socialize, he doesn't do anything else, but so that he doesn't kill himself, he does woodworking. And so he literally just spends his days either at VA appointments or doing woodworking. And he makes all sorts of different things. He makes these little keychains with names, and it's his way that he'll do service for people by doing that. But he's not ready to really talk about his stuff. But he knows that he wants to be creative to keep his mind going so that he doesn't get to the point of wanting to kill himself. And so that's the thing, is it doesn't matter what your outlet is, just try to give yourself an outlet. My
Right.
husband, he does his creative means is he's a software engineer, and he does a lot of research online and messes with creating his own softwares and stuff like that, and that's his creativity, you know. So it doesn't matter what your creative outlet is, doing something. And like, even if you don't like it, destroy it, throw it away, break it. Like, maybe that's cathartic for you. Burn it, like I said, you know, but at least it's getting you out of your head and doing something.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. What were you going to say, Kevin?
No,
Sorry.
no, you did great. Thank you for that.
No, I knew you were going to pick up on that because that's what I was going to pick up on too. For really though, no, there's a listen. I was told this when I was going through my studies, and I don't self-disclose that much on this show, just like I don't self-disclose in my job. Uh, but I remember a guy telling me, he was like, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous says what other people do and think is none of your damn business, boy. And I'm like,
I've heard that so many times.
right. And so I literally
Yeah.
went home to prove him wrong. I said, okay, let's see then. I went home and I read the book just to prove his ass wrong. And when I read that phrase and I read that sentence, I'm like, I humbled myself, called Northern Ward up, and I'm like, sir, you're right. I'm sorry. And one of the and so I will say that much, right? That's one of the best phrases I've ever heard. And I even teach patients that, right? Like when I'm working with folks, and I do a lot of DBT. And so a lot of things will come up, and I'll just tell them, like, I'm not worried about, Trevor, you and I were talking about this earlier while, when while we were waiting, and I help patients understand, right? Like, I'll be in the middle, whether it's group, individual, whatever, and they'll say, well, my husband or my wife or my sister, my mom, just that and the third. And I'll just look at them like, whoa, I ain't worried about what anybody else does. I'm more worried about you. Can't work with them. They're not in front of me, right? I'm worried about you. My focus is on my wife, right? And so, but it's, reality is you're right. If I'm worried about what other people think, do, say, believe, just that and the third, am I really living authentically? Am I healing internally? right? And by healing externally. I mean, let's get for real here. I mean, that has been the one thing that has been life saving and life changing for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then you mentioned also art. We did a episode one night with Joseph, right? And he talked about, because you mentioned ASAP, and so when you mentioned that, I was thinking about our little episode, Trevor.
Yeah.
He
Joseph is very active in working with our veterans. And it's
Yes,
very important for
yes,
you to bring that up.
and yeah, absolutely. And he ended up building out his career. He's a musician. He was a vocalist or whatever with something like that, lead band person, with whatever with the Steve Miller Band.
Steve Miller Band, baby.
Yep, yep.
And
So
he's been active in the music industry for over 35 years.
yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, like he's a very talented musician. His brothers are world renowned artists. He doesn't consider himself world renowned. I'm like, whatever, dude. You are absolutely world renowned. So many people know you. So, but what he does for the veteran community is he writes music, and he will get them to tell them about, there's a process he goes through, but the song will be for them, right? Like it's a personal song that anybody can listen to when they are going through the dark and they're needing to see some type of light, maybe feel it. And that's one of the most beautiful pieces of what I've heard as far as the veteran community and the music piece of it. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I didn't even know ASAP was a resource. I never heard about him until today. So I'm gonna definitely start using that for my veteran population for sure. So
Yeah, the Wounded Warrior Project. If you get a chance, especially someone who works with patients, talk to the Wounded Warrior Project and ask them about all of the partners that they have, because there are so many different things, and there's so many different ways that they are connected, and they have a list of all those resources. They also do a weekly check-in. So I have signed up where I get a weekly check-in from the Wounded Warrior Project, and it's actually a licensed clinical, somebody that calls me once a week. We have established SMART goals, and they check in with me every week of how I'm doing with my SMART goals, and talk to me about, what I have going on in life and whatnot. And it's a half an hour appointment every week, and it's just a check-in. And they also will tell you more about different resources that were available. Like I just found out Wounded Warrior Project also offers EMDR. And they also offer an IOP that they'll pay for 60 hours in a week, like real intensive inpatient treatment, intensive outpatient treatment. Like there's Wounded Warrior Project is connected to a lot of these different programs that are willing to help. So if you need some resources, contact them.
Real quickly,
absolutely.
before it gets off your mind, Marie, what is EMDR?
So eye movement desensitization,
Reprocessing.
Okay.
reprocessing.
And
Yeah.
with me being an old guy, I don't know all the necessary acronyms or
No, you're not
shortened.
old, dude. You're 52.
Yeah, so it's a therapy. I have not done that one yet. I have done dialectic behavioral therapy, cognitive processing therapy, intensive outpatient therapy,
Gotcha.
and I've done acceptance and commitment therapy. But EMDR is another one where they help you think about a specific trauma, and they do rapid eye movement stuff to help you process through, because REM sleep is where you process through the most. But a lot of
Right.
people who have PTSD do not go into REM sleep. And so they don't do the processing that needs to happen. And so the EMDR helps you process either with tapping. They do like different forms of tapping to simulate the eye movement, or they do electronic stimulation, which stimulates the eye movement back and forth. And so you think about the certain trauma, and then you are processing through it.
Okay.
So that's what it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It is a very intense practice. I did one session of EMDR, and that was right before COVID.
That was for yourself or
Yeah,
doing it with other
for
people?
for myself, and so it was really intense. I mean, I have to admit that, like, it was something that really got me to process the situation that occurred. Yeah, I mean, it was awesome. It really was. Like, it really helps out a lot of people. I did a 5 hour course on CPT, cognitive
Yep.
processing theory.
I
Um,
love that. That was
yes,
so fantastic. It brought me
and
to the
it's
Skype unit, and I'm so grateful that it did because I actually processed through a
yeah.
lot of stuff.
No, you're right. And one of the things I like about it on an outpatient level, it's a 12-week program. It's a 12-week, once a week, outpatient program. Everything is outlined for you, what to do, how to do it, like all of that. That's the one thing I love about the CPT. I've not done it yet on the inpatient because our deal is a different type of modality than that. But something that I would that I've been thinking about. How do I incorporate this in my groups? So definitely, you. So you mentioned, right, a lot about resiliency, right?
Mhm.
Growth, development, change, all of that. This many people make it out of addiction. Many people survive trauma or traumatic experiences. This many people survive suicidal ideations. Trigger word for anybody: 988, or local emergency room, anything, local crisis center. This many people survive. Add to the list infinitum, right? What was the turning point for you for that change to occur, when that light bulb came on, when you saw the light at the end of the tunnel? What what was that process like? Because everybody's different, right? Some people say, I hit emotional bottom, I hit financial bottom, I hit this bottom, that bottom, or what have you. And the reason I ask is because you shared a lot as far as like trauma, military, continued trauma, like ongoing. What we're trying to push for right now is complex trauma, right? So you
Complex
experience,
PTSD, which is
yes, yep,
multiple experiences and ongoing trauma. Yes.
yeah, yes. Uh, eh, so with all of that being said, right, all of your experiences, and then the person you are right now, what happened? Like, where did that transition occur? How did it occur? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So for me, there's many different layers, and it's been interesting because I wasn't able to see it back then, but there has been multiple times that God has intervened in my life that has set up different stepping stones for me along the way. You know, in my hardest moments, God put somebody in my life to help me or put some sort of experience to help me. Like, okay, so I'm going to just kind of touch this real quick and then I'll move forward. You said the word resiliency, right? That word pisses me off. It pisses me off because I hate that I have to be resilient, right? And then I also don't know if I think people have a weird connotation of resiliency. Resiliency, you're so strong, you made it through all of this. No, the hell I didn't.
Right.
I was not strong enough. God put somebody or something in my life to help pull me out every single time. So the resiliency was that I was able to grab onto that hand over and over and over again. You know,
I'm in
that
a
is
hundred
what
percent
resiliency.
agreement with that. I'm in 100%
Yes.
agreement with
It is
Yeah,
not that
absolutely. I definitely
but I
agree with that.
yeah, but I'm saying like a lot of people think resiliency means you're so strong. Like, look what you've been through. No, resiliency is being willing to admit that you are weak and you cannot do it on your own. Resiliency is the idea of reaching out for help every step of the way, right? So even in my addictions, I had these moments where it was God putting someone or something in my life to help me keep going. And I'm so very grateful that I was adopted into a family of parents who were, even though we dealt with a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? Like there's always family dynamics, right? My parents were such great examples of staying connected to the gospel, staying connected to God, staying connected to Christ, you know, and being able to reconnect every single time, right? It wasn't that they didn't fight, it wasn't that we didn't have issues. It's that they kept going and they kept turning to God and they kept moving forward, right? And so my dad was such a great example of that. And so I am so very grateful, and my mom as well, right? I'm so very grateful that I was in a home that was connected to God. Okay, so that was kind of the stepping stones that started me along the way, is that example of faith. Even though we're going through hard things, even though I don't really agree with some of the things that are going on, even though we've got family dynamics, we've got trauma, we've got this, that, and the other, there is an overarching spirituality that stayed in our life no matter what. And so even though I got lost in my addictions and I got lost in my lifestyle choices, I always knew that I could go back to the gospel. I always knew that I could go back. And so that is something, you know, that connected me throughout everything. And so no matter how dark I went, I knew that I could go back. And so as I kept going, you know, and I went through all of these different things in my life, I would say my explanation is that I kept God in a cage in my heart, right? I saw that he was there the entire time. And I would go to him and I'd be like, hey, God, here's what's going on. Give me advice. Oh, I like that advice. Thanks. Bye. And I'd walk away. Or I would say, hey, God, here's what's going on. I wouldn't like the advice. Okay, never mind. Screw you. I'm going to leave. But I always knew that he was there. And so that was my saving grace. And so anyways, where it finally got to was I had gotten to a point where I was not facing any of my trauma. I was making horrible choices. I had kind of blown up my life with my ex. I had dropped out of school, and I ran away and moved cross country. And this was this was about 5 years after I got out of the military, you know, and I was just kind of stuck in my PTSD and my trauma response and my victim mentality. And there was a few different layers that happened, but I was introduced to my friend Petrie, Petra, Wie geht's? Meine Schatzi. She is my German friend that really, really, really helped me. She was a mental health specialist. She worked in a psych unit. And she helped me to see I met her a year before I got sober. And she really helped me start seeing what was the reality of what was going on in my life. She helped me recognize that I was an alcoholic, even though I wasn't there to recognize it. She started calling me out on some things. And then I was able to open my eyes. I spent some time with my sister, and this is towards my bottom. I spent some time with my sister, and I had all these in my mind, all these lies that I had told myself about our family or about her, and about my relationship with this stuff. And she opened my eyes to some things that I didn't recognize were going on. And I was like, man, I've been very self-centered, very self-centered. I'm not seeing the full truth of things. And so then I got to a point where I was realizing that all of my life was about drinking and was about drugs and promiscuity, and I had no real connection, and it just was not a very good life. And I was driving drunk with a really good friend of mine, and he was feeling really emotional about something, and the only way that I could connect to people was, I can't handle their emotions, I can't handle mine, let's get them drunk so that I can get drunk and we'll be great. And so I got him really drunk, I got myself really drunk, and I was driving in a car and going really fast on the freeway, and I was in the fast lane. I was going 70 in Jacksonville, Florida. And it had gotten to a point where I was swerving so hard, I almost hit the guardrail, and I had to overcorrect. And people are going 80 and 90 around me. And at one point, I swerved so hard, you know, when I overcorrected, literally, I felt God grab the wheel and straighten it as this car went zooming by. My friend didn't have a seatbelt on. He would have been dead on impact. I would have been dead on impact probably, and in that moment, God just like is like, hey, you're going to kill somebody that you care about, not just yourself who you don't care about, not just strangers you don't care about, but somebody who you claim to care about, and somebody that you want to love, and you're going to hurt your future loved ones. And so that was when I knew that something had to change. And I went into the recovery community, and I was able to, work through a bunch of things. But over the years, it took me when I stopped with the alcohol and drugs, that's when I started actually having to face what was going on within me, right? And so when I'm facing what's going on within me, I couldn't really handle it. So I ended up in the psych unit the first time, and they put me on some meds. 2020 hit in the middle of all of that, and I kind of started losing my mental again, and I got lost in my food addiction. So then in 2021, when my dad got started getting 2019 is when his dementia started. And 2021, I moved out to Utah to kind of be close and help out. And as I was helping out, I was realizing there was a lot of stuff that I wasn't okay with in my heart and in my head. There was a lot of resentments and frustrations. I was trying to meld into like some unhealthy patterns of behavior, and I just was not in a good place. So I started doing cognitive processing therapy, and that is where everything really started changing for me. So there's many layers of the change, right? But then the cognitive processing therapy is what really saved my life. And so cognitive processing therapy, for those of you who don't know, it is the art of finding the stuck points that have defined your entire life. It is all the lies that you have told yourself, all of the things that bring you down and make you sad and frustrated and resentful and angry and all of that stuff, right? And I've got a poem. Remind me, there's a poem that I want to read about that. But it's the idea of figuring out, what are these lies that I'm telling myself? Okay, I was raped, therefore all men are evil. That was a lie that I was telling myself. Or it was, I was raped and my body is my worth. And so I had these lies that I was telling myself, and I had to like really, really delve into, be like, when did I first start telling myself this? What is the trauma that started this lie? And then can I challenge through this, and can I create a new truth? So the new truth that you go into is, some men are bad, but more often in my life, I have had good men. And then even challenging that more, there's no such thing as good or bad, right? Some men are more sick than others, some women are more sick than others. So it's not that they're bad, it's that they're sick. Like most often when people hurt us, it is not about something evil and nefarious. It is they are reacting to their own traumas. I was hurt, therefore I'm going to hurt another person. So cognitive behavior or cognitive processing therapy helped me to recognize these stuck points and to challenge them, and to recognize that people are bad. No, people are sick. You know, my body is my worth. No, my body has nothing to do with my worth. I have inherent worth with my higher power. My worth is based on my actions, not based on my body or outside things. It is inherent within me. And so there's just a lot of different things that I learned in that cognitive processing therapy, right? And so that led me to ending up in the psych unit again. And in the psych unit, they detoxed me off of a bunch of medications because they had originally diagnosed me with bipolar. But as I started doing this trauma therapy, the meds stopped working and I started having a lot of issues. And they're like, wait, you're not bipolar, you're borderline. And the difference is bipolar is a chemical imbalance and borderline is an emotional imbalance. And so I needed the meds for a while to calm down my chemicals so that I could process through the emotions. But once I processed through the emotions, my chemicals went back to normal. So I no longer needed to be on medication. So once they detoxed me off of that medication, I had done the cognitive processing therapy. That was where I was finally able to start being open to realities of life and to going back through and finding more peace. But I also went through this diagnosis of this Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, where I found out that my body was falling apart, and I had to get bilateral hip replacements. So between 23 and 24, I had to get bilateral hip replacements. And so then I really had to overcome those stuck points that my body is my worth. Because now I'm at a point where I'm using canes and canes and walkers, and I've got braces that I have to wear and stuff like that. And so that overcame a whole nother layer of my body is my worth. For a long time, my body was my worth stuff was because of like sexual stuff that happened. And then it was, well, now my physical body is falling apart. So how can I find this worth within me? While I was in that care facility is when I got stuck in the bulimia, right? Because I'm like, I'm uncomfortable. I need to eat. And I need to eat, but I don't want to gain weight. And so I got stuck in that. But also along this, and like I said, there's many, many layers to this, right?
Right.
During this time, I also get married to my husband. While I'm in the care facility, I get married to my husband. And it was so wonderful, right? He's been my best friend for years. And we started dating just before I went into the care facility. I was in the care facility for 8 months. I got the one hip done. I got married. I got the other hip done. And then I moved in with him last year. So we've been married a little over a year now. But when I got out,
Congrats.
thank you so much. Thank you. But when I got out, I was confronted with relational trauma that I had never dealt with from ex-boyfriends and ex-fiance and ex-husband. So I move in with my husband and I start reacting to him as if he was some of my old relationships. And I really started having another layer of trauma that I had to go through. So I put myself into an intensive outpatient program because my food addiction was getting worse. I was dealing with the relational trauma. My PTSD was just shot through the roof, because it was also, I was at the same time dealing with more of my military trauma because I had just spent 8 months in a veterans home dealing with a lot of other veterans and their traumas, which triggered mine. I also dealt with a whole lot of death while I was in there, which I'm so grateful because it helped prepare me for my father's death. And it helped me see that death is a part of life, you know. So anyways, the last couple of years have been super intense as I have processed through layer upon layer upon layer to find the peace within and to find my purpose and to figure out how to let go of all of these old layers, Like I make the joke that God wanted me to experience it all, and I'm so super grateful for that because in all of the experiences that I have, I am able to connect with a whole lot more people. And so in these experiences, as I have experienced so many different layers, God has introduced me to so many other people who need experience, strength, and hope. And so that is how I have found my purpose in this. So I don't know if all of that was the answer to your question, but there has just been so many layers of what has brought me to where I'm at today. if that makes sense.
In the heart of the city, a vision was born, not just a piece of clothing, but a movement. Vital Apparel reflects not just the raw edge of the streets, but the spirit of innovation to bring about change in mental health worldwide. It's more than a style, it's a statement, a blend of comfort with an attitude made for those who refuse to be average. Embrace the culture, ignite your passion, and wear the revolution. Discover your new favorite piece today and be part of something larger than life. Visit our link now at vtlapparel.com to grab your next outfit. Use promo code ONEMOMENT to get 15% off your order. Why support us? The founders of Vital Apparel, Hung Dao and Alex Kozub, sought out to raise awareness, seeking to change the stigma around mental health. 5% of their profits are donated to Brain Research Foundation, furthering the research in mental health. Vital Apparel sponsors the One Moment podcast. We partnered with one another so that together we can make a global impact on mental health, substance use, and suicide, saving lives one moment at a time around the world. Help us break the stigma. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast and to connect with us on social media. Don't forget to subscribe to our channels to stay up to date on our episodes. Subscribe now. Some photos in this ad were created by Grok.
Yes, and you answered it. And real quick, Trev, then I'm gonna pass it over to you. You mentioned a lot of stuff in that, right, as you were answering it. And that goes to show that there are different bottoms to life, right? Doesn't matter who we are, right? Doesn't matter. We all have our own experiences that we have to overcome, process. I shouldn't even use the word overcome. I don't like that word, but reality is we all use it, but we all have to process. And that goes back to subjectivity, right? What it means for you is going to be different than me if I had to go through the same experiences. And I think that's important to know. And you just said all of those things. So you answered and gave more, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, Trev, apologies. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. One of the biggest things that was brought to my mind, Marie, with what you kept saying, referring to layers and layers. And in my personal things that I've been dealing with, I've heard it said so many times, especially from April 5th to today. I'm usually attending between 2 to 15 meetings a day, and people are like, 15 meetings a day? You got to do 90 meetings in 90 days. I'm like, man, I got that shit blown out the water. And so what I was thinking of when you're talking about layers is that you're peeling. There's so many times they talk about you're peeling back the layers of an onion. So I would just refer to you as our podcast guest as a blossoming onion, because once you get to the middle of the onion, guess what? There's a little part of that you can put in the healthy soil and the dirt, and my higher power has created it to sprout and bring forth life in a productive way. So, and that's part of my artistic abilities that I'm not really delving too far into, but it helped me go back to the high school years that I spent in the 80s, and where I went to school in Michigan. There's some fields right down the road from the high school I went to of onion fields and carrot fields. Carrots and onions grow in really wet, moist soil, and picking those vegetables was a source of income that I could get to be able to go to hang out at the parties with all the seniors and everybody that was having the big bashes. So it helped me get into my history, my personal history of going through those experiences. And I was always the first guy to get wasted. My nickname in high school was Weak Tit, because a couple of shots, 3 shots, man, I'd be out. So it was amazing to go down that road with the agriculture in my background, the blossoming onion kind of deal, peeling back the onions to getting to that part of it that regrows itself. And that's my higher power at work, who never leaves us and never forsakes us. That's written in his word somewhere. I can't quote it book, chapter, and verse, but it is in there. He never leaves us nor forsakes us, and that is the only reason why I also am still alive. But I've been going through so much for length of life. Alcoholic father, total military family, military cousins, military uncles, grandfathers, uncles, aunts, medical people, professionals, law enforcement. So for me to be the only one out of me and my two brothers to have graduated high school and still, going through the problems of life, um, have turned me around again. So it's like I'm doing a 360, not a 180, because I did the 180, and that's nothing but negativity over that way for sure. But the 360 degrees, going through the same things that you've gone through, Marie, are really relating to me in a positive way to keep giving me the strength to go through just for today, because we're not promised tomorrow. We might get tomorrow, but there's no promise for it. And all we have are these moments that we're sharing with each other in this time in our podcast. I look forward to hearing the next poem. It looks like you're getting ready to read it. Are you going to do that?
Yeah, I was just thinking
Go for
if
it.
you were okay with that.
Go for it. Carry
So,
on,
Go
man.
ahead, please go ahead,
Absolutely.
please.
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
so,
Yeah,
It'll
so
get me to shut up anyway.
there's, well, as
yeah,
you were
please, because I
talking,
am tired of hearing you, Trev. I mean, Jesus, listen, let the
I
woman
know.
talk.
I know you are, Kev.
no, no, I'm enjoying, hearing the
Good.
different
Good.
perspectives on things. But I was just gonna say, you talk about the onion, and like one of my poems is actually called "The Seed of Hope." And that's not the one I'm going to read right now, because I could sit and read the whole book to you if you really want me to, but I'm not going to.
Oh, yeah.
But
We'd have a real
so the seed of,
episode then.
yeah, but the seed of hope is one of them, and it's that idea of planting a seed of hope was given, and how like I give the seed to the next person, and then what you can do to get the seed to grow. But what I wanted
Absolutely.
to read, like I was saying earlier, I was talking about expectations and resentment and frustration, right?
Yeah.
So there's this little and there's this little poem that I wrote a couple years or a year back, a couple years back. It's a little section of a poem, and I've turned it into a little rap. But I was able to finish the poem with that little rap. So I'm just going to say the rap real quick, and then I'll read the poem. But it's unmet expectations, resentment, then frustration, then logic out the window. That's the way my brain goes. Then loop the loop it goes around. Solutions to this can't be found. In it, I can't stop this mess. I'm going crazy, I confess. So
Nice.
that's the little rap. But I wanted to share the actual poem with you that I finished. And so in my book, so it's More Me Than I Used to Be, A Journey to Freedom. And the first 4 poems are what I call my journey series. Okay. And so it just kind of like specifically talks about the journey. And then the rest of them, they kind of touch on the journey, but it's just a bunch of different ones. And the theme is just mostly, throughout the whole thing, is just finding faith and overcoming trauma and resentment and stuff like that. But so this one is called Continuing in Faith. And this just kind of sums up, this is my most recent one. I wrote it, or not my most recent poem, but my most recent one in the Journey series. And so this is, I did it in December, and it just kind of overviews everything that I'm going through. Okay. It's called Continuing in Faith. Have you ever wondered what it's like to feel safe? Or how you can find comfort when life makes you chafe? Have you ever heard that voice from deep inside that tells you that it's time to get off this bumpy ride? Have you been so lost the idea of light was crazy and sitting in the darkness made you feel less hazy? This is what my life was like before the journey started. And here is what my mind was like before the clouds had parted. Unmet expectations, resentments, then frustration, then logic out the windows. That's the way my brain goes. Then loop the loop it goes around. Solutions to this can't be found. In it, I can't stop this mess. I'm going crazy, I confess. I couldn't find a path to safety. I felt I had to fight everything and everyone each day and each night. I couldn't find safety. I didn't feel free, even though my life seemed so happy-go-lucky. When I started on this journey, I found I wasn't alone. Others had these same feelings. My mind was blown. I didn't feel so isolated. They gave me tools to fight. They showed me how they found God and came into the light. When I started trusting Him, the one who is above, He filled my heart completely with gratitude and love. He started healing broken parts with help from the Savior and really started changing the kinks in my behavior. I have much to learn and many layers to unfold. I feel like a new story in my life is being told. I'm finding safety in the light. The darkness is retreating. And in regards to others, I don't feel like I'm competing. I'm continuing in faith, challenging the voice, the one that tries to tell me I'm making the wrong choice. It tries to tell me I'm not worthy or others are to blame, and tries to overcome me with darkness and with shame. Now that I have felt the warmth within the light, it gives me strength as I continue in this fight. I know all this is temporary. I have helped to make it through. Now I can turn my heart to being there for you. If you have felt the same as me, finding comfort in the dark, I hope you get to read this and maybe feel a spark. There is love all around that others can help you feel. Sometimes, like me, you may have felt it wasn't real. Please keep moving forward. The light will start to show from a loving God above who wants you all to know you have worth just like me, even though our paths contrast. And at the end of the journey, we will rewrite our past. And so that's kind of what I'm doing, right? Like there's a thought process that I go through, right? Is that my story has not changed, but I have become a different storyteller. I can see things through a different lens now. I am rewriting my past.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that because, um, you know, look, I do a lot of reading, I do a lot of research, right? Uh, and I have my moments where I'm in there and I actually need to catch something up, Trevor, which I'm about to start working on it again today. Um, but Winston Churchill once said, the farther backwards you can look, the farther forward you will see. And I shared that because you mentioned going through processing, right? Processing your experiences. And I believe that to be true, what Winston Churchill said. I've had moments in my life, right, where, I will go through things, right? Or we will go through things, and let me keep it on me. I will go through things, and plus I'm selfish and self-centered anyway, so I love talking about me, right? But we will go through things in life, and only as hindsight 2020, right? The further back we can see, right, we can learn to take things away, right? We can take away meaning. Like you shared earlier that you went through this step and then you went through this step, and the end result is people are sick. Some people are sicker than others, right? Like rather than all men are bad, well, some men are bad, some are good. Well, listen, it's not really for me to be the arbiter of anybody's goodness or badness. My job isn't to judge. That's what I love about DBT therapy. DBT, like it's let's take a non-judgmental approach here. But the further back we can look into our history, I think healing can come from that. I remember working with somebody. Uh, um, First time I ever experienced it, and sometimes I would do gestalt therapy, right? Like sometimes, and one of my favorite techniques is the empty chair technique. And so this individual shared something that he was experiencing, thinking, and all of that. So I asked him a question. I'm like, so how old were you when you first experienced this? And he was like, yeah, this age, whatever. Like, what the hell does that have to do with anything, Kev? I'm here for my substance use. Okay. But you're feeling like that right now, right? Well, yeah, I'm feeling like, okay. What happened at that age? Okay. And then he started tearing up.
This is cognitive processing therapy that he's doing right here.
Right.
But continue.
Yeah, no, right. So did he started tearing up, right? And I'm like, okay. So let me ask you another question. If that same person, if that 3-year-old, 8-year-old, whatever age person you are is sitting right beside you, right now, at this moment, through everything you've learned in life for the last 50 plus years, what would you share with that individual? What would you tell that little child, you at, today? And they started telling them, no, we said the chair beside you, not the therapist. So I need you to look at the chair and say that. And you would be like, when we talk about cognitive processing therapy or theory, right? And Gestalt therapy, the empty chair technique, beautiful experience, beautiful moment, because the tension went from here and the heat went from here straight down to here. And I shared
now you're talking to a child. You're not just talking to the adult that you think is weak. You're talking to a little child that is within you.
Absolutely.
Yep.
1000%. There's so much beauty that can come from when we just take a step back, remove ourselves from the present moment. Let's look at the facts for what it is, and then we can actually move on, right? It's that stuck point. It's that stuck point. And regardless of who we are, we're all deal with this. We all deal with these stuck points in lives, those negative self messages that we tell ourselves. Oh, well, you're not good enough. You're worthless. You're useless. You're a piece of crap. You'll never amount to anything. This, that, and the third. Add to that list infinitum. Every one of us deal with this. I can sit in any room, patient, non-patient, doesn't matter, and ask my favorite question: have we ever thought we're not good enough? We're no better, or whatever, right? We're worthless. Every single hand will raise in that room. It doesn't matter. And we all learn this stuff at a young age. We all go through these experiences of. And so I love that you were sharing that your experiences with. I mean, it's a beautiful transformation that you have shared.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
100%.
Yeah, there's actually a poem that I wrote, and I know I've already done 2 poems, so I won't read another one unless you guys really want me to. But
hey, listen, this is your show. What we always say is we're here to facilitate the show. We're not here to run the show.
Okay, let me read one more poem, and then Trevor, I will pass it on to you because I know you've got something to say. But this poem is actually yeah. This poem is actually called "Inner Children Need Mothers Too."
Oh, outstanding.
And you can also alternately say inner children need fathers too. So if you are a man and you're reading this, think about father. For me, it's mother. So inner children need mothers too. And I just wrote this one in March. I was dealing with my 4th step in my recovery and trying to find some healing for the inside of me. And so I was doing like some mirror work and some inner child work, working through it. So the little girl inside that was running around in darkness, seeking a door that couldn't be found, has gone on many journeys in seeking the light and learned many lessons as she's continued the fight. I fulfilled a role of mother to that inner child, helping her sort through the muck that was piled. As others have shown me the way to seek God, I remind the little girl to hold the iron rod. If she lets go to seek a distraction, I put my hand out without overreaction. I guide her back with patience and love because that's what's being shown from above. She sometimes gets tired along the way, so I ask God to strengthen her day by day. Like most children, when emotions are high, getting overwhelmed, she'll sit down and cry. Those moments are super special to me. Like a mother, I embrace her lovingly. It's a representation of a heavenly hug when God holds me warm and snug. One day I'll let go of that mother's role. Someone already paid the toll. For that little girl will be fully healed. That blessed atonement is set and sealed. For now, I'll continue showing up day by day for myself and for others along the way who need a surrogate for their inner child because they may have felt exiled. I'm grateful that God has given me this chance to feel how He loves us. I at least get a glance. In the end, that part of me that mothers, that has continued to protect the others, will also be able to become as a child, for all her trauma will be reconciled. To all of you others with lost children inside, please don't let that little one hide. Inner children need mothers too, until at the end, God heals us all through. So, Trevor,
See,
go ahead.
well, hold on, Trev. Hold on, Trev. I got you. You can, please, just give me 30 seconds. Put me on the timer. I know I'm a long breath person. You're making me want to go in there. So we have a journal called the One Moment Journal, right? We haven't updated it since like March, but it's a 365, 366 day a year type of deal. We haven't updated it since like March the 29th, 8th, 6th, something like that. But I do have a question. I want to let's talk more again when we're off the recording, but you're inspiring a lot of things right here in my head. So I just wanted not to forget this.
Oh
You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
Use the
I will
use
let
the moment, brother.
yeah,
Use the moment. I'm with
yes.
you.
Right now?
I'm with you.
Okay. So oh, all right. So I promised Rev you can have it then. Thank you for letting me go over my 30 seconds.
You're
So I would like to be able to use some of your content, right, to put on there. And
Yes.
just so you know, let me see.
I have not updated. There's a lot of the poems that I had to edit to fix some of
Uh-huh.
it to put in the book. And so the stuff I have online is not the edited stuff. We'll have to look at the stuff in the book and I can send you some of those. So just let me know. All of my stuff is free online. By the way, if anybody's interested, sliderbabe.weebly.com or look at my name on Facebook or Slider Babe Poetry and Art. All of my stuff is free online. So I am open for sharing and passing it along. You can put it on this, whatever you would like to do. Anybody is open to do that. If you want to buy a book, you can send me an email with your email, but anybody is open to seeing all of my stuff for free. So yes, please put
That
it on your
that is
stuff. I would love that.
I
that
am
is very
trying to pull it up now, but it's not working. So Trev, go ahead.
that is very encouraging to hear because to me, my perception of that is someone who's doing active spiritual work, Marie, and that's a positive influence for you to give you more strength, just in the sense because there's no mammon or monetary thing associated with it, and that really is actual spiritual work. Contrary to what religious groups and all that, I'm a spiritual person in my particular uh, spiritual sense. I'm not really religious. I'm pretty anti-religion, but I am a very spiritually founded person. Um, So anyways, I just wanted to really quick say that. But at the same time, I wanted to thank you, Marie, for encouraging the development of my other program, because I have 4 12-step programs that I'm active in. So I have 48 steps to do. I'm like the Mr. Overachiever here. And one of those particular programs is called Adult Children of Alcoholism and Dysfunctional Families. And I'm like on the cusp of going through that because I've got so much going on. I think it's pretty cool how Kevin used the one moment about the journal that clicked with me instantly. I'm like, yeah, great job, Kev. Yeah, because we need some help with that too as well. And I'm kind of like the biggest procrastinator that's been around for so long, but and that's maybe a
Well,
characteristic
we've
I
been
need to.
doing nothing but video editing and
I
recording.
know
So
it's been
with on top of
difficult,
schoolwork, like, yeah. So, but anyways, go ahead.
but yeah, I get you. I just wanted to thank Marie for exposing that necessity that even if you're a veteran, even if you're in law enforcement, corrections, dispatchers, firefighters, all these first responders, people that respond to help others, they go through some of the deepest shit that they never deal with, that they stigmatically push down inside of them and don't deal with it. That's what eventually explodes out of them in some way or another, whether it's an alcohol use, drug use, uh, negative behaviors with their families. It can envelop a lot of things, and you may not recognize why you're doing it. So, dealing with the child part of us, and you know, I've had a pretty vast life experience of all that, dealing with trauma from a very young age. And maybe that's possibly why I got myself caught up into legal issue. And I still want to use these abilities that I have to try to help others. And everybody's going like, well, you need to help yourself. I'm like, I can take care of me. I've been in survival mode ever since I was like probably 4 or 5 years old, and that's a little bit under 50 years ago. So yeah, 50 years of experience of the difficulty of life itself for me has developed me into now to the aspect of learning more, helping others to get a grip on themselves through their recovery. Um, Going in through these programs that are designed, our best one is 90 years. It's been 90 years since it was established. So it's a really cool thing. Everything's involving the togetherness and working together to help each other out, especially our veterans who go through the most difficult parts of times in their lives. But it was really cool. The moment that Kevin used to talk to you a little bit about goes into the origination of this whole One Moment podcast. And you did a little bit with the rap, and my dude from Detroit, from my home state of Michigan, which I love, and I love Eminem. I love his one, in this moment. All you got is this moment. You got 86,400 moments of one day to make a decision to change your life or change someone else's life in a positive manner. How are you going to do it to help yourself first? How are you going to do it to help the next person? And yeah, that's kind of went through my brain really fast. And I don't mean to overwhelm everybody or anything, but I really think that this is one of our greatest episodes that we've had yet. Everything works in coercion with itself for this moment, for this One Moment podcast. We're just grateful to have you as our guest, Marie. Kevin, you want to do the honors and lead her into the ending part of the.
Imagine a day where fatigue doesn't stand a chance, where clarity perks up your focus as the clock ticks on. Discover Dubby Energy, the drink that transforms ordinary moments into opportunities. With no sugar and flavors that feel like gourmet art, each sip stirs your senses, readying you for greatness. W Energy is a focus energy drink that contains no sugar and is available in a variety of unique flavors. Their coffee fruit cherry extract is the star of the show. This ingredient is what makes W unique and helps to provide smooth and effective focus and energy, making it perfect for anyone who needs to conquer a task. W flavors are created with one goal in mind: to taste unlike any other beverage. We combine bold and unique flavor combinations to craft an experience for your tongue with each sip. W achieves its smooth, effective focus with a high-end tasting experience while using no sugar, no fillers, and no artificial color or dyes. Every product they create follows the same philosophy: be effective, be clean, and taste as good as nature will allow. Use promo code ONEMOMENT to enjoy 10% off their products. And most importantly, they sponsor the One Moment podcast. They are helping to raise awareness of mental health, substance use, suicide, and much more around the world, seeking to make a global impact, reducing stigmas and changing lives one moment at a time. Visit onemoment.chain.box to learn more about our podcast, follow us on our social media channels for more information, and to stay up to date with our episodes.
My bad, I forgot. Right? I just realized that. Oh my God. So I was saying, well, hold on now, because I got so many questions, dude. Okay, so many questions. All right, I have to know. Okay, if it's okay with you. All right, but
Go ahead. Yeah.
oh, okay. So I've seen so many people in front of me when I was working in outpatient, especially in the outpatient therapy. They will come in and they'll be they'll have a history of all these types of drugs, right? Cocaine, meth, heroin, opiates. I mean, add to the list, right? Alcohol, doesn't matter. Benzos, doesn't matter, right? And so they would also come in with a diagnosis of, as you said, BPD. They will have a diagnosis of this, a diagnosis of that, diagnosis of this. And yet, once they got sober, right? And we get them to a point in recovery where they're doing good, they're phenomenal, their life is great. And I say great like it's continuing to improve and get better in all areas of life. The BPD isn't there, right? The bipolar isn't there. The depression isn't there. The anxiety isn't there, right? And so there's a false diagnosis.
It's still there for me.
Right.
So yeah.
That's what I wanted to find. That's what I wanted to ask you, right? So I said that to say this. With all of your stuff, right? Is all of that stuff still cropping up? Do you still deal with it? Do you still struggle? Like, because I've seen many false diagnoses, and you rarely see a true diagnosis. Does that make sense?
Yes. So, yes, with some people, the drugs and the alcohol give false diagnoses. People are being diagnosed this way, and then they find out that they're an alcoholic or an addict. They get sober, and they don't have the diagnoses anymore because it was the alcohol that was depressing them or messing with their chemicals,
Yes.
or the drugs that were changing with things. Yes. There's also the people who they go through their trauma and they are no longer having the trauma responses. And so you're right, their anxiety goes down, their depression goes down. But then you've got people who are in grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them are able to recover if they have the capacity to be honest with themselves, right? Okay, so there are people with the genuine mental health problems, and I am one of them. So I am the definition of, I'm sorry?
Sounds like incomprehensible demoralization to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So I am the definition of borderline personality disorder. Okay. I actually have moments of dissociation. And so a lot of people don't understand there's a difference between disassociation and dissociation. So disassociation, there is a situation that's happening. I am uncomfortable and I am going to escape the situation. So I'm going to drink, or I'm going to drug, or I'm going to eat, or I'm going to walk away, or I'm going to go take a shower. Something I am physically going to do to pull myself out of the situation. And that is disassociation. For me, with my borderline personality disorder, I have what's called dissociation. And so that is where I am physically in the situation and my brain says goodbye. My brain says, this is too much. I can't handle this. I am being triggered and I'm going to run away. And so I am here having a conversation with you, but I am not emotionally and mentally here. I am responding as a teenager. And this is what my husband explained. I would be here having a conversation and have a logical conversation. I would get triggered into my BPD episode and I would start responding as an emotional teenager. And I would literally go, it's not DID, dissociative identity disorder, right? I am recognizing that this is happening, sometimes, and other times I'm not recognizing when it's happening, but I start responding based on emotions instead of logic. And it's really interesting because there are times that I won't remember full on conversations. I will know that we had the conversation, but I won't remember what was said during the conversations or what I said or what I did. There's a lot of my childhood stuff that I don't remember because I had dissociated, so borderline personality is a trauma response, and it is a behavioral disorder that I developed based on my trauma, and the drugs and alcohol just exacerbated it. But with the drugs and alcohol being gone, I still go into those moments of dissociation. And so I have gotten a lot better. The intensive outpatient program last year genuinely helped me because that's what was happening when I moved in with my husband, is I was responding like I was younger. I was responding as if I was still into those situations. And so basically in the intensive outpatient program, and I highly suggest people go into that kind of program if they are experiencing these kind of situations, or go into an inpatient treatment so that you can learn how to recognize what is physically going on in your body. Like, I literally will feel it in my body. My body starts tensing up, it gets hot, and I start like closing off. Like I literally feel it in my body. And what's happening, it's literally it's my I can't remember how it went, but we learn about the chemical changes that it's happening. So I have a chemical imbalance that is because of emotions, not because of a chemical thing, right? So there's chemicals that are happening that are funky, but it's because of the emotions. So anyways, I can start feeling when it's happening in my body, and I can stop myself now and be like, I feel like this is coming. I need to get out of the situation, and I choose to disassociate so that I take control back, so that my emotions don't take control. I take control back, and I say, I need to walk away from the situation. And usually I'll go take a shower, or I'll go write, or I really, really focus on mindfulness and pull myself back into my body so that my brain doesn't go. I literally have to like bring myself back. I am in this situation. I am not in my past trauma. And this is something that actually in intimate situations it happens, because in my intimate life I get triggered back to my sexual trauma. And so I have to literally stop, and I have to be like, okay, I am not in that situation. I am in this situation, and I have to bring myself back to it and focus on that mindfulness. And so it's the same thing when I'm out, okay, when fireworks hit, right? What, like 4th of July, when the fireworks hit, I find myself starting to, like, my logic goes away and my emotions, and I start getting really emotional, and I have to bring myself back and say, look around. I am not in Iraq. I am here. I am present, And so I feel it happening now, and I'm able to pull myself back into my body so that I don't do that. So the anxiety and the depression, it is so real still for me. The dissociation is still very real, and I still struggle with it. But yeah, it's that mindfulness aspect, and I cannot control what is going on in the outside, but I can control, and it's the same thing in recovery, right? I can control what my reactions are. And so I can say, no, I am in charge of how my body is going to react. And I can stop and be like, I need to pull myself out of the situation. And so that's kind of how I address it, is be present within my body. I have done all sorts of mindfulness activities in recovery, mindfulness for pain management, because I have a tendency to dissociate when I've got high pain, because this genetic disorder is a very high pain disorder where I am in chronic pain every day. And so my brain will start trying to dissociate because of the pain with the BPD. And so I have to physically like bring myself back into my body and be like, this is just another sensation. It's just another sensation. I don't need to escape. And so that's the thing. For so many years, I disassociated, or I would dissociate. And so now I just focus on that mindfulness. I need to be present. What can I control right now? I can't control anything that's going on, but I can walk away from the situation. I can breathe. I can go take a shower. I can, light some incense. I can do something to bring myself back into the moment.
Gotcha. So yeah, and that's why I was asking, because I think it's important to understand that for many people, especially therapists, professionals, right, who are diagnosing BPD, that's why I asked, because there's so many false diagnoses, right? And so I'm glad that you were able. I'm glad that you allowed me to ask the question,
Yes.
because I think it's important to understand that BPD is real, but it's more rare than what we think, than what we
Yes.
know. And so,
And some people actually dissociate as they are recovering, right? From the alcoholism, from their addiction, and from their trauma. That does not mean that you have borderline personality disorder. It is a response your body is trying to re-regulate, right? And so you can have dissociations as you are dealing with these emotional things, but it doesn't mean that you have borderline personality. I have it because it is so regular. It is something that has happened my entire life, on and off. It is something that in addictions, outside of addictions, in my recovery, it happens out of my control. It has happened multiple times. So I have a history of this, going on and on and on. And they've ruled out other things. And because I've had trauma therapies and stuff like that, they have been able to say this has happened constantly, so we can adequately give you that diagnosis. And so there are times where you may dissociate, but it does not mean you have the disorder. It just means that you are having these responses. And once you process through your stuff, once you can get into that mindfulness, it doesn't happen for you anymore. Or it's very rare. But for me, it's a very regular thing, and I have to catch myself nearly every day. I have to catch myself in
Yeah.
that initial trigger that I am starting to dissociate.
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you being able to make that distinction, and especially so clearly. I wanted to backtrack, all right, real quick. As far as doing as far as the grief, right? Was it surprising to you, right? Because you said a year ago or 2 years ago you had made up your mind, this, that, and the third. And I was laughing because I'm thinking to myself, right? We can think of the weirdest stuff, the most insane, craziest stuff we can think of. Was it surprising to you when the situation occurred? And again, I'm sorry to hear about your loss. Was it surprising to you to realize, to go through this experience and not think about doing anything? Was that like a shock to you?
Yes and no. I know that I have done a lot of work, especially in just the last year. There is a lot of work that I have done to be able to get out of the victim mentality, to process through my past traumas and not let them control me today, right? And so it wasn't that much of a shock, but it was a shock. It I guess what kind of shocked me was how present I was able to be, because I really thought that I would dissociate a little bit. I didn't think that I would go into very much the victim mentality, but I thought that I would very much, go into dissociation or something like that. But I did not. And I was so grateful for that. I was able to be present and in the moment. I got the call, hey, dad's not doing okay. He hasn't woken up in a couple of days. And so I was like, okay, well, I need to get down there. And so I started packing, I started making plans, and I drove down there that night. I did deal with some emotions. I got super emotional before I left. But when I actually got to in there to see my dad, I felt the emotions, but I was able to just be present with my family. In the last year, there's also been a lot of healing going on in my family with me and some of my siblings, and that's been fantastic. And so it was wonderful to just be able to be present. So I guess that's what it was. I knew that I wasn't going to go there thinking that I wanted to drink, but I did not know that I would go there and be able to be so present. And so I'm just grateful that I was able to be so present and just enjoy that last day with him. Like he was not conscious, but we were able to sit there by his bedside and be there with my mom and siblings in and out all day. And it was just very wonderful just to be able to be present.
Gotcha. Now, next to last question, I think, all right, because there's so many, man, I got so many. I got thousands running through my head right now. And then I'm going to let Trev pick it up and or carries, close us out. Either or. Um, do you feel like you repairing or rebuilding? Let me use that one. Rebuild, not repair. Do you feel like rebuilding relationships with family has helped you throughout this process?
Very much so. Very much so. I actually had a conversation with one of my brothers, and a while back I had to put up some boundaries on some of my family. I had to kind of like take a step back. And it was because I felt like I wasn't getting the validation that I needed as I was processing through stuff. And I had to take a step back because I needed time to build emotional boundaries. And like my brother was just like why did you have to do like physical boundaries? Like can't you just kind of like let things go? And I'm like, I know that some people can just let things go. I can't. I take things very, very personally and very, very intensely. And even if somebody may not be intentionally trying to hurt me, I have a tendency to take it personally because that's my I have this tendency to take things very personally. And so I had to set up some physical boundaries so I could build up the emotional boundaries so I didn't take things so personally anymore. And so I had to walk away for a while when I went to the psych unit, and then while I was doing my trauma therapy. And then when I came back, I had to put up boundaries and be like, this is what I'm going to talk about. This is what I'm not going to talk about. Okay. And that was for my own protection. Because even if other people meant well, I still was taking it personally. So I had to be like, I'm not going to talk about this with you. I'm going to talk about this. And so in taking that time to separate, I was able to process through the things that I needed to get out of that victim mentality and build up those emotional walls where I didn't take things personally from people, whether they were purposely trying to hurt me or whether they were just responding to their own traumas, or whether they were just teasing, or whether they just didn't understand what I was going through. I had to get to a point where it doesn't matter how other people react. What other people think is none of my business. What other people say can only affect me if I allow it. So I had to set that up. And so then once I was able to set that up, then I was actually able to go through and do some reconciliation with some of my siblings and with my parents. I was able to do that reconciliation and make some amends to some people that I felt like I owed, but also just like addressing, hey, here is what I went through in the past. This is in the past. This is why I responded the way that I did, but I love you and I'm willing to move forward. And so that really has helped. And then also just seeing that everybody's journey is their own and it has nothing to do with me. right? Like, even if I don't agree with what you're doing, I don't have to let it affect me, but I can still love you anyway. I'm not going to enable you. I'm not going to condone any of your behaviors, but I'm also not going to condemn your behaviors either. And so in that aspect, I was able to find that balance where I can be present. I can walk away from a situation that makes me uncomfortable, but I don't have to sit and be angry and frustrated. And I can also use my words, because before I didn't know I could use my words. And so I'm able to like set up my words and be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now, or like, hey, I do not accept this. I understand this is your response this way, but I don't accept it anymore. And so I've been able to set up the boundaries and also feel more connected. So when all of this stuff happened, and then I was able to be in the room with all of my siblings at once, I was able to be more present and recognize that everybody's doing the best they can with what they have. And whatever they say or do has nothing to do with me. Whatever I say and do has nothing to do with them. I am responding to my own stuff. They're responding to theirs in a good way or a bad way. So, yes, it was definitely wonderful to be able to feel like I could be present without that condemnation of other people or feeling condemnation for other people. And so, again, I felt like I was able to just be present and let go of past stuff and let go of the anxieties of the future and just be there with other people.
Thank you. I do appreciate it.
Very much so. So, Marie, you've been one of our more lengthy guests, and we appreciate that. We're glad that you took the time out of your day just for us today, especially on the most important day of being in existence for 250 years. We thank you for taking the time out of your independence to share it with us so we can help others to learn how to be independent and themselves too. If there was one thing when this is something that we traditionally do at the end of our episodes, we like to ask our guests if there was one specific thing that they would like to have those that are taking away the information that they've learned with us today. What would be a call to action in your mind for those viewers that are either actively listening with us right now or in the long run? What is a call to action that you would like to see? And we'll let you go ahead and finish with that.
So I will answer that in a two-piece. So the first piece, I will say, the overarching theme that what we've talked about, right, is trauma, and like, so PTSD, trauma responses, and addictions, right? Okay, at the basis level of PTSD, trauma responses, and addictions, at the basis level is a feeling of disconnect. Okay, disconnection from the world, disconnection to our loved ones, disconnected to God or your higher power, right? So disconnect. You have this trauma response and you feel disconnected from everybody. You use the addictions because you feel disconnected and you want to be a part of, you want to connect, or you want to run away, right? And so the call to action, I will say, is if you want to overcome your trauma responses, if you want to overcome your addictions, is to find a way to connect with God, with nature, with each other. Whatever your higher power is, it could be the universe, it could be whatever, right? Finding some sort of connection. I encourage that completely. And especially in if you can please find some sort of way to get into a support group, whether it's an anonymous group, a recovery group, a church group. It can be, there's lots of different veteran nonprofits for your veterans. There's a lot of other like meetups and just a lot of different groups that you can be a part of. You can do it in person, you can do it on Zoom, you can do it whatever. There's the 988 hotline that you can call. There's a whole lot of other hotlines you can call. But the idea is, if you are feeling lonely, if you are feeling disconnected, if you are having trauma responses, if you are struggling with your addictions, the best thing you can do is to find some sort of connection. Connection is going to be your lifeline. And so I would just say, reach out to somebody. My brother asked me the other day too, like he made the comment, he's like, Marie, could you go a month without talking about your trauma? or your journey and this, that, and the other? And I was like, no. He's like, well, can you even go a week? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, why not? And I explained to him, I said, I didn't word it this way, but I was kind of trying to allude to the idea that I heal out loud because I suffered in silence. I want to make sure that I am always talking about what I am doing to heal so that I don't go back into suffering in silence. I want to be able to share what I'm going through to be there for the next person, because I know for me, I had to have other people sharing their story with me. Like there's times that I didn't want to go see a therapist because I don't want to know what's wrong with me, right? I want to know what's wrong with you. So recovery groups have been so fantastic because I can see what's wrong with you. I trust you for sharing what you're going through, because then I know that I'm not alone. And so this is why I continue talking, so I can connect to the next person. And so I just encourage you, even if you can't do it on this public forum, right? Just connect with other people, talk to other people, share your story, and it'll help you, and it'll help you be there for the next person, so that we know that we're not alone. So I will continue healing out loud so that I don't suffer in silence. I used to, and this is what I told my brother too. I said, I used to define myself by my trauma. Now I define myself by healing from my trauma. And one day I hope that trauma will not define me. But that will be in a future perfected world, and we're not there. So I would rather be known for healing from my trauma than from hiding and running and keeping it silent. So, like I said, use your voice, use your words, connect to other people, share what you are going through, because you never know how much it's going to help you and how much it's going to help the next person.
Thank you for that.
And that is one of the most powerful things that I've heard any of our guests say yet. And we keep getting better with this One Moment podcast. We want to thank you for being our guest. You've been amazing and wonderful, an outstanding resource, developing poetry. The things that you're doing for our veterans is just a crucial episode. Everything happens for a reason. In this one moment that we shared together, we shared a bunch of them together, not like that. I didn't like having a technical difficulty recently, and I just jumped back into the episode. But I'm glad I was able to do the call to action, because normally Kevin or Josh or Ruben get to do that, and I just get stuffed off to the side. So it was cool. I like that call to action the best. And you are an amazing guest, and we thank you very much for conducting your time with us and doing this episode with us. It was a great, great one-on-one podcast.
Thank you. I'm honored to have been here. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Happy 4th.
Have you ever felt like the world would be better off without you? You're not alone, and there's more to this feeling than you might think. New research reveals that suicidal thoughts and behaviours are unique to each individual, challenging the old belief that it's solely due to depression. When people are suicidal, they often believe they are a burden and that their absence would relieve others. They might see suicide as a solution to their overwhelming problems, feeling lost and unloved. But ancient wisdom, like that from the Bhagavad Gita, teaches us to give up selfishness and embrace kindness, respect, and compassion for all. St. Paul once said, "Love never fails," reminding us of the enduring power of love in our lives. No matter where you are in your struggles, remember that someone cares about you, trusts you, and loves you. You are not a burden. Time has a way of healing, and your struggles will pass. Don't give up before the miracle happens. Hold on, because peace and love are within reach. If you need immediate help, please contact local emergency services. Peace and love to all. KO.